Good morning everyone, I'm Chris and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Sound City news. I have finally got to the bottom of the excessive hiss. It's a combination thing in that most of the hiss is generated... Hold on, let me find a good pointer because I don't want to get zapped. Here we go. Most of the hiss is generated in V3. No, V3 is V3. V4 is a phase inverter. So most of the hiss comes from V3. Now there is actually a gain switch on the rear of the amplifier. And in one mode, obviously there's more hiss than the other. And you can adjust the level of the lower gain using this pot here. So I've gone round and I've replaced all the noisy components that were causing most of the hiss. There is still some left in the amplifier, but we are aware that one, this is an older amplifier anyway, and they were generally, they do have some noise, and two, we can't spend too long on this because racking up labour bills to eliminate all noise floor in the amp when most of it is at an acceptable level. So that's where we are with that. We're happy to let it go. Just wanted to show you on the oscilloscope. There's my output sine wave. And that we're getting 20 volts into 8 ohms, which is bang on 50 watts. So there you go. Yeah, quite happy with that. It's running nice and healthy. I've just set the bias. Well, I set the bias and then I've soak tested it. I did install 1 ohm cathode resistors on the output valves. Now, interestingly on this, it doesn't have one bias pot, it has 2. So you can set the individual bias for each output valve, which is actually really handy because then you can balance it exactly where you want it to be. But yeah, this Sound City is now done. All I've got to do is, I'm just going to leave it running for another hour or two, just to make sure there's no other issues, and then I can get it back in the cabinet. I want to give the cabinet just a quick clean up, quick wipe down. But then, yeah, that's all done. Customer can have it, all sorted, and get this one out of the door. If some of you checked out my live streaming this week, you'll see I've been making good progress on the brown panel PR35. So I've got the board populated, so that's all done. Need to do my underboard wiring, my flying leads and my twisties on that. But before I do anything on that, I need to get the chassis to the point that I'm comfortable with. So I've got obviously started wiring in my sockets. Output valves are done. Get some light on this so you can see what's going on. Behave. There you go. Hopefully that helps. So I've done my rectifier socket, my 2 output valve sockets. This is the half power switch, which comes on the PR18, 35 and 50. I'm actually trying a different way of wiring that in. So I've been doing these new twisties with it. I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I'm still working on it, but yeah, we're getting there now. HT fuse is all wired in. Got the first 2 nodes of our HT rail done, and I've done the reverb driver socket. Got to do the output sockets and things like that. Want to get the pots in, my bus bar in place, all those bits and pieces. I want to get this chassis to as far as I can, so the next job would then be to lower in my wired up board and we can get wiring up. So yeah, good progress on this one too. Really happy with that. And yeah, let's keep going. And the twin reverb, the silver plate one, that's been here for a while, is now complete, or at least, again, it's as good as it's going to get. Reverb is now working. I've reduced most of the hum and the hiss down to less than 10 millivolts peak to peak. So yeah, that's great. Biased it all up, checked it's okay. Had to replace 2 of the valves. V4 was incredibly noisy and so was V2. So we've got some new TAD 7025s in there. Just going to carry on soak testing this, you know, usual stuff as I go, but this one actually sounds great. Really happy with it. I mean, the board is not in great condition. I did do the plate resistors and the cathode bypass caps, but this board at some point, I suspect it's either going to need pulling, completely cleaning and repopulating, or, you know, is this amp a good candidate for a hand-wired conversion? But I mean, the customer doesn't mind a little bit of noise, so and I fixed the issues that it came in for, so yeah, it'll go back, and you know, if he wants to spend more money on it, he's more than welcome to. But yeah, let's just get this one out the door, and on to the next one. Okay, so let's do an initial fire up of the Carr Rambler. Now, this amplifier is currently safe. It's not blowing fuses. You know, there's no customer complaints that would give me concern where I wouldn't want to fire it up on the test bench. What's it actually come in for? Well, he says, let me find my notes. Overall, it's quite noisy. There's a hum in triode mode, so we need to inspect that. So when we flick this switch to triode mode, he says there's a hum. We'll check that out. And he says there's ghost notes on decay. So you play a note, and as the note starts to die off, there's artifacts there that need checking out. So when we first gave this a visual inspection, we didn't see anything obvious. The only thing we did find was the output valve sockets. The bases do look rather toasty. So we do need to check the bias on this amplifier. So we're going to fire it up. I'm measuring the high voltage just on the first node. Actually, no, I want to do it. I want to do it straight off the rectifier diodes, don't I? That's where I want to be. We're going to inject a signal into the amplifier, and on the oscilloscope, just check all the controls and things are working as expected. So I'm on restriction mode at the moment, but I don't need to be. I am going to give it the full whack straight away. Again, I have no reason at the moment to have any concern that there's a fault in this amplifier that's going to cause any major issues. So I'm happy to give it the full voltage. So it's solid state rectified, so I'm going to see voltage almost straight away on the diodes. The other thing I've done is I've put the other microphone right up on the speaker just to try and hopefully, if there are any noises, maybe my mic system will pick it up too better than we have previously. So anyway, let's give it a go. So straight up to 493 volts DC. There it is. We're on, we're glowing. My filament's coming on. Yes, they are. We're currently pulling 28 watts out of the wall. I think we're in standby mode actually, so let's go the other way on the switch. What's going on here? There we go. Right, so what have we got here then? We've got got an off, on, and on, and a separate standby. Anyway, I can hear some hum from the speaker, and if I flick to triode mode, oh yes, definite hum there. Hopefully that you're picking that up, and that sounds like 100 hertz hum, so that's rectified hum. Pentode mode. I can still hear the hum in the background. It's very faint, but we go to triode mode, and it gets even louder. Okay. So let's mess around with the controls, see what we can find. Volume up, treble up, and I can hear some hiss from the treble, mid, bass. None of those controls so far have affected that hum. Different hum kicks in with the reverb, which is standard. Now, can you hear the hum is modulating with the tremolo? It's coming across. Okay. All right. Let me work out what this two-position switch does. Anyway, right, let's inject a signal, see what we get. So, as usual, injecting a 150 millivolt RMS sine wave into the front of the amplifier. General rule for 3-band tone stacks when testing is you have the mid control on full, treble and bass on 0. And let's advance our volume control and see what the output shows on the scope. Okay, that's a very interesting looking sine wave, isn't it? Let me just get rid of that menu. Can we see? Sorry. That's a fun sine wave, isn't it? I can't get that to look anything like a regular sine wave there. Amp on full. I'm messing around with the EQ here. Just tweaking the treble, middle and bass. Trying to get a nice output sine wave, but I can't. That looks awful. So, maybe there. Maybe there. Something like that. Tremolo. You see that works. But doesn't that look odd? That's quite an asymmetrical wave, that. Right, let's triode mode. So we do get a drop in output. So that one there currently, the way I've got this set is it's currently doing 9.2 volts into 8 ohms. So it's running quite low at the moment. That puts us about 10 watts at the moment. So quite low output. So let's set it at 10 volts. 10 times 10 divided by 8 is 12.5 watts. And then triode mode, 6.4, 6.5, call it 5.5 watts, something like that. So very interesting. Right. So all the controls work, but there is that hum that we heard, and our sine wave does not look correct. Not a nice sine wave. In fact, how quiet have I got to go on it? See, already at that point, see, it's a nice sine wave up to there. Then after that point, it starts to go weird. In fact, you can see that crossover distortion there as well. Right, okay, so I'm not getting what I would consider a nice sine wave out of the amplifier. We've heard that there is a hum in triode mode. And I'll have to just confirm the wiring to see how this amplifier achieves that. And the tone controls all seem to be working, as does the tremolo, but the tremolo is modulating that hum on and off, so that seems to be, that indicates to me the hum is generated upstream of the tremolo circuit. Not always the case, but again, I need to go through this amplifier, check and confirm how it works and what it does. But that is the Halloween Carr Rambler initial checkout. We'll check the bias as well and see where we end up. Right, PR35 progress. As some of you may have seen on the live stream, I was wiring up the boards. So we've done the underboards, the overboard twisties and the flying leads. The pots are in on the chassis, and I've started doing some wiring on there with some components. Making good progress on this now, actually. Really happy with it. It's looking great. The live stream setup works great as well. Managed to get that dialed in. A couple of sound issues that I'm working through, but it all seems to be about there now. So yeah, making good progress on this PR35. Next for me on this is to wire up the valve sockets and the front panel, the pots. Doesn't matter which way around I do that. You know, whichever way the wind is blowing is the way I choose to do it. So, but someone did point out, I remember once, a couple of years back, that if you wire up the top side first, you then spend less time going near the central twisties as you do on this side. But it doesn't really matter, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it doesn't really matter which way you do it. But anyway, that's the amp so far, coming on great. Well, that's it once again for another episode. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate everyone who tuned in. You all got an extra episode on Monday, so lucky you. Don't say I don't ever do anything for you. It's been a busy old week this week, actually. It's gone quickly, but I've had a lot to do. I'm glad that I got the Sound City done and that twin reverb repairs completed, because they were dragging on a bit. Need to do the Pro Reverb that's out the front. Got the Carr Rambler and the Tone King Imperial plus the PV. I've actually got some other amps coming. I think I've got a Cornford Hellcat coming in as well for service. Got a 70s Vibro Champ. In a couple of weeks' time, a chap is bringing in a rare mat amp, actually. So we've got quite a few things booked in. So that will keep us entertained for the next couple of weeks. Anyway, my racing season starts this weekend. In fact, by the time this video goes live on Sunday, I will be at Silverstone, Reading, prepping for my first race. We're on the international circuit, which is, I don't know if you know Silverstone, you've got a full Grand Prix circuit, which I can actually split into two. Then you get the national side and the international side. Now, the national side runs out of the old pit complex, and the international side runs out of the new wing, the Formula One wing. So it's all very fancy. So we're running out of there. Last two races on that configuration, I've stuck it on pole position, but I've come home second in the race. So fingers crossed this time, crossing everything, it will be a good race for me on Sunday. Now, on Friday, I've got to take the car, Friday tomorrow actually, take the car for its pre-season dyno test. So I need to get the power checked on the car to make sure that it's all within where it needs to be, make sure it's... Well, firstly, I need to check that it's not making too much power, and therefore the cars are legal. But also I need to check that it's not making too little power, and then, you know, that indicates I've got to sort something out. So if I'm going to try and take the camera and a GoPro with the car to film that dyno session. So if I do, I'll stick at the end of this video as bonus footage. It's the dynos are interesting because we work on power at the flywheel. So the dyno measures the power at the wheels, then measures the drag through the drivetrain and the transmission, and then calculates to a fairly high accuracy the power that the engine is making at the flywheel. And I think you can actually, if you were, you know, if you wanted to, you could pull the engine from the car and take it to an engine dyno and compare those two figures. And I think when people have done that, it's been within half a percent or 1%. So, you know, really, really accurate. So anyway, so that's Friday. I'll try and get that footage for you. Racing on Sunday, back here on Monday, fixing amps, building amps, cracking on with everything. So thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, comments down below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. My subscriber numbers are going up, but my percentage of subscribers versus viewers is still quite low. It's around 25-26%. So not everyone who watches these videos are subscribed. And the best way you can help this channel is by clicking subscribe. Of course, if you want to go further than that, you can join the channel, which means you get all the videos early, amongst some other perks. It's $2.99 a month. It's not a lot of money at all. I mean, do you know how many channels I subscribe to and pay money for? It's probably 4 or 5. So, you know, it really does help creators. And as you know, I'm just trying to create better stuff for you, you know, show you what's going on. The live streaming's working great, all that stuff. But anyway, I shall catch you all next week.